Hey everybody, today we're starting something new. For many months, every week I film a video that's related to the message to be used in small groups to help add a little fuel to your conversation, and hopefully that's been a helpful resource. I've heard good things from some of the groups who are using that. Other groups, maybe your group, you've been studying different material, and that's totally fine, and so you haven't been hearing from me every week. And so what I wanted to do starting this week, in this video, I'm just going to give you an update, explain to you why we're doing some of the things that we're doing, giving you information that I think is helpful to you and those in your group. So I'd love for you just to watch this at some point in your group. When I get into the material, if you're studying something else, you can just hit pause. But each week, you get a little bit more access to me and get to hear some inside information. And I hope that's incredibly helpful for you. Now, I want to share with everybody, this is the big thing that I want to focus on today is, what are we trying to accomplish with our life groups? Well, there are a few things we're trying to accomplish. One is we want to give everybody spiritual friendships. There is nothing like Christian community to experience God's love and experience it through other people. Relationships make the world go round. Reality is fundamentally about community. God is community. He made us to reflect what He is like. He made us to be in community. We want to provide not just a conversation group, but real, deep, meaningful, spiritual friendships. That's what we hope is being cultivated in the group that you're in. Some of you are experiencing that. Some of you are desperate for that. You're in the right spot right now. We also want to provide you with people who are rooting for you, who are praying for you, who can be on your team, putting wind in your sails to help you take your next step. And the leader of your life group and the friends that you have in your life group, they get to play that role for you. You also get to play that role with other people in their lives. And so I hope you're encouraged by that. Now, how are we doing life groups right now? Well, we've asked life groups to meet on Zoom until our governor's executive order allows us to meet in larger groups in home. Here's why we're doing this. It's not because we are trying to placate elected officials. It's not because we're letting the Bible take a back seat as the lead in our lives and we're trusting in government. That's not the case. We're trying to play our part in being wise and being loving and doing everything that we can to mitigate risk during this season that we're still in of a global pandemic. Now, our values have been this: love and wisdom. We're going to pursue love and we're going to pursue wisdom in everything that we do, and that's been guided by three things. Let's do what's in the best interest of one another. Let's honor elected officials, and the only reason we would not honor elected officials if they are demanding that we do something that's contrary to the leadership of Christ. Third, we want to honor the best medical advice that we have. And right now, the best medical information, the best medical advice that we have right now is socially distancing, washing hands, and wearing masks. And so I just want to get real with you for a second. I want to be vulnerable with you, and I hope that you'll lean in. I know some of you disagree with that. And I know some of us are saying, well, I'm not going to meet at all until we can get together in person, no mask. I want to really encourage you to consider reevaluating that position. You need other believers in your life, and they need you. Reality is fundamentally about community. God is community. He made us for community. Let's not allow our frustration, our disappointment, and our anxiety with the way things are right now keep us from what God intended for us. It's important. I know that some of us are saying, well, we'll get together, but we're not going to wear masks. I understand the frustration. I'm tired of wearing them myself. I hate wearing masks. But I love you. And I love others in this church. I love others in this community, and I know you do too. It is unfortunate that that has become a dividing line that causes people who are immune compromised or people who are in a high-risk category to feel like they can't be in their group because the people in their group aren't willing to wear a mask to help protect them. So I'm asking you, let's do for each other what Jesus has done for us. And that's hold our rights with an open hand and even lay them down for the good of others, because that's what love requires. And so if you don't have a space in which you can be 6 feet apart, we're going to ask you to be on Zoom just to help us mitigate risk. If you do get together with people, we're going to ask you to continue. Be socially distanced. Wash your hands. And please wear a mask out of love for others, honoring our elected officials, honoring the best medical advice that we have, honoring what's in the best interest of others. And if you can't do that, meet together online. My group meets together every week online, and it is so meaningful. It's not the same as what it would be to be in a home with each other, but it is meaningful and it is good, and it's so much better than being alone. Now, I don't want to come down heavy. That's not my intent. My intent really is just to kind of open up my heart and let you hear why we're making the decisions that we're making, why we're asking you to approach this the way that we're asking you to approach us. And I'm asking, can we just stand shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, and we're going to say together, we're not going to allow anything about our circumstances to keep us from loving each other in the exact same way that Jesus loved us. I know you want to do that. I want to do that too. And with all the noise and with all the frustration and all the anxiety and all the fatigue that we have, I have it too. Let's remember that we are privileged to get to love others in the exact same way that Jesus loved us, and our approach is simply a way to try and do that. All right, guys, thank you. Just want to share that with you. I appreciate you listening. Maybe your group needs to kind of rally around and talk about that, and maybe even say, what steps do we need to take to make sure that we're aligned with them? That would be a great conversation for you to have. Right now, I'm going to transition into the material based on the message. So if you're studying something else, you're dismissed. Thank you for watching this. I love and so appreciate you guys. And for those of you who've been tracking along with the message and you're discussing that, let's talk about that now. Years ago, I read a book that absolutely changed my life. It's called The Search for Significance by Robert S. McGee. This guy is brilliant at helping the message of the gospel intersect with the messes of everyday life. And he wrote a lot about insecurity. He talked a lot about approval addiction. He talked about all of the things that sin kind of gives birth to in our lives and how the gospel is the answer for that. And one of the things that he wrote about is shame. And I'll never forget. I underlined it, I've highlighted it, I've circled it, I've starred it. On this page in his book, he says, shame is the emotional tar of our lives. Think about that for a second. Shame is the emotional tar of our lives. And essentially, shame is this, is I'm hopeless, I can never be good enough, I am defined by all of my mistakes and all of my regrets. Shame is living in a way that's disconnected from what Jesus has done for us and what he has said about us, what he said about you, that you are enough in him, that you are completely righteous in him, that you are completely accepted in him, you are completely loved in him, you are completely delighted in him. And the challenge that we have is to continue to preach the gospel to ourselves. As we've talked about our identity, and our identity is like a deck of cards, and there's so many different things that make up who we are, and we're trying to categorize that, we're trying to, or shuffle that, we're trying to figure out what is our top card. Shame, the emotional tar of our lives, has a way of sticking to the top and making us believe, no, I'm that mistake, I'm that regret, and I'm not what Jesus says I am. And do you know who the best preacher is that you should know? It's certainly not going to be me. And it's not going to be the person on your favorite podcast. The best preacher you know should be you. We have to preach the gospel to ourselves. In Christ, I am made whole. In Christ, I am brand new. In Christ, Ephesians 2:10, I am God's artwork. Now, here's one of the reasons this is so incredibly important. If we miss this, love will be impossible. And before you tune out, before you say, I don't think that's true, hear me out. On Sunday, I used this illustration. If we continue to believe the lies of shame in our lives, if we don't trust what Christ has said about us, if we don't trust who we truly are in him, if we're not trusting the gospel, we're going to spend our lives walking around handing everybody else the gavel. Here, you judge me. You tell me whether I'm good enough or not. You tell me whether or not I'm approved or not. You tell me whether or not I really am a mistake or not. Here, you judge me. And if that's how we live, and that's how, listen, that's just the reality of sin. That's what sin does to us. If that's how we live, we're going to live our life needing something from other people. And love is seeking out what is best for the other. It's seeking to give to the other. And if we're living our lives in need of receiving from others, we won't be able to give to them what they need because we are already complete. You see, Jesus, he's not just love, which he is, but he's the only way that we can be loving because we are complete in him, not needing from others to validate and complete us and to make us whole. Only by trusting in him and allowing him to defeat and unravel all those lies of shame are we now able to truly love and give to others without needing something in return. So I'm going to ask you to lean in. This might be one of the more vulnerable conversations you've had with your group in a long time. But it is so good because in the gospel there is love and there is freedom. I hope you enjoy. Have a great week.